Now, ministers are being warned that gaps in their Brexit preparations risk causing severe disruption to supply lines at the UK's borders when the transition period ends in less than 4 months' time. 8 organisations, including the Road Haulage Association and Logistics UK, say the supply chain will be severely disrupted if concerns such as a lack of funds to train customs officials aren't addressed before December the 31st. The government said it had plans to ensure the country is ready for the changes. Well, I'm joined now by Rod McKenzie, who's Director of Policy at the Road Haulage Association. Rod, thank you very much for your time this morning. Tell us, first of all, what are these significant gaps that you've identified?
Well, good morning, Anita. We are heading for a shambles. It is a real case of the government sleepwalking to a disaster with the border preparations that we have, whether it's a deal or whether it's a no-deal Brexit at the end of December. And the reason is there's an awful lot of different and apparently contradictory IT systems, probably about 10. We're not clear whether they work, because they're new and untested, and we're not clear whether they talk to each other. So what that really means in terms of everyone who's watching this program is that the supply chain on which we all depend to get the things we need could be disrupted, and there is a lack of government focus and action on this. And we are calling on the government to act now before it's too late.
Well, Grant Schapps has said that he is absolutely prepared to meet the haulage industry representatives to talk about this. Is that enough at this stage?
Well, we need a meeting. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But more than anything else, we need action, because these systems are not ready. We do not have clarity. We've got traders who will have to fill in lots of different forms they've never had to do before with lots of different fields, and they're not clear what they have to do. So there's a lack of clarity. You know, the dangers are enormous in terms of our trade. When we're trying to emerge from the crisis of COVID, if we then plunge straight into a Brexit-related crisis, that will be a really difficult moment. We need real pace.
Sorry to interrupt, Rod. I want to try to take you through a few quick-fire questions to try to establish a couple of things. I think we've got about 17 weeks until the end of the transition period. At what point do you think those IT systems ought to be trialled?
Well, they need to be in action now, because actually, as we all know, with any new IT system, there are bugs, and those bugs need to be trialled and fixed. To give one example, there's an app the government is proposing called a Smart Freight app, which lorry drivers would carry to prove that they've done the necessary paperwork. But one of the problems here is that most international lorry drivers are not English speakers, and they may not have very good English. So how do we know that they will be able to operate an app not in their first language? That's just one of the many questions we have.
On the number of customs officials, where are we in terms of the numbers required as far as you're aware?
Well, we've got about 5,000 now. We need 50,000 customs officials to fill in all the forms.
Is that recruitment underway? Recruitment and training underway?
There's no great evidence that we're anywhere near that sort of number. There may be some sporadic hires here and there. We at the Road Haulage Association have been trying to do our bit to get involved in that. But again, there is a lack of progress. And when you think how long it takes to hire someone, train someone to do something they've never had to do before, and get all that up and running in the tiny time space that you've referred to, Anita, we're in trouble.
Look, the government said earlier in the summer that it was investing around £700 million in this. It's talked about plans to create lorry parks, or you might prefer to call them inspection bases. But is that not enough to rectify this situation in that period of time? Or do you seriously believe that we simply do not have enough time to sort this out?
Well, we need real urgency. We haven't got it now because lots of civil servants saying the right sort of thing but not doing very much. And the government are in charge of the civil service, so it's the government's fault, not the civil servants. These lorry parks that are being talked about are not some kind of luxury base for lorry drivers to park in, we wish. What they are effectively holding areas which could be pretty miserable places to exist in if the paperwork isn't done. And that won't be the fault of the traders and the hauliers themselves.
Rod, you paint a pretty disastrous sounding image, really, of what it could be like after the 31st of December. But let me put this to you from Grant Schapps this morning, who said he was confident that supply chains will cope with the end of the Brexit transition period. He said, "I'm used to dealing with a large number of cataclysmic cases, and you will have noticed that through this last very difficult 6 months where supply chains have been under record enormous pressure, not once have we ended up running out of medicine, and although there was a run on toilet rolls and pasta and the like, there were never actually genuine shortages." So he is confident that supply chains will keep going. Talking now to our viewers, can you say with an equal level of confidence that supply chains will be fine?
Logistics in the UK is a brilliant industry and great at dealing with crises like COVID, and they did. But this is a new set of factors involving paperwork that is completely unknown, a lack of customs agents, new IT systems. So these are things we can't manage in the way that we normally manage a logistics crisis, which we're very good at. This is out of our control. That's why we're worried about it. That's why we're flagging it up now to the public, to the government, and saying, you know, the time for talking is over. We really need rapid action on this. Their argument is we don't know whether there's a deal or a no deal yet on the Brexit talks. Well, you know, the difference here is between pretty much of a disaster area and a disaster area with rocket boosters on.
OK, Rod McKenzie from the Road Haulage Association, thank you very much.